Hey everyone, Mark Montgomery here. We're talking about the common application prompts, and this one we're going to look at the topic or idea that is so engrossing that you lose all track of time. Let's read the prompt and go through it, shall we? Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So remember, every prompt has to have a story and has to have reflection. So what's the story? It's the story of when you were so captivated by it that it's just ridiculous. Like, you're just, show me through a story that you are really, really captivated by whatever this is. You are just totally engrossed. And I sometimes joke with my students, I say, this is the wet your pants prompt. Because it has to be so engrossing that you just, you forget to go to the bathroom. You're just totally focused on this, and you're so excited and so consumed by whatever it is you're doing that you really do lose all track of time and all track of everything else. So the story in this prompt is about you being captivated. You're going to describe the idea or topic, but it's going to be through that story if you're going to make this a really successful essay. We got to have a good story. And then why? And that is the nub of all of these prompts, is the why. Why do you care about this thing? Remember all these other prompts? Why do you care? Why is it important? Why personal? Your personal involvement in this thing. Why do you care? And you care for a lot of reasons. There's got to be some reasons why you actually care about this. Sometimes students will say, well, so why do you do this? And they'll say, well, because it's fun. And I know it's fun, but why is it fun? Dig underneath to help me to understand why this thing, not the other thing, this thing, this activity, this topic, this idea is important to you. And that leads me to this other issue, and that is that this is an intellectual prompt. At least that's the way I take this. What's the idea, concept, or topic? So tell me something about it that it's about the life of the mind. And the other aspect of this prompt is, who do you turn to when you want to learn more? Because what is school really about, after all? When you're going to college, you're going to learn things. And what they want to see and understand in this prompt is that you have some energy, some passion, some motivation to learn. And that there are certain things out there that you really do enjoy learning about. And you get so engrossed in it that you lose all track of time. So, yes, there may be things that you do that you lose all track of time, like playing League of Legends. Okay, that's not really what we're talking about here. You might be totally engrossed in playing soccer because you love playing soccer, and you'll just do, soccer, and you lose all track of time. But remember that this is a topic, idea, or concept. So I really think of this as an academic prompt, because they're not asking about an activity that is engrossing and captivating. They're asking about a topic, idea, or concept that is captivating, that makes you lose all track of time. So it's not about running around and going and doing stuff, but it's something that has an intellectual component to it. Now, that could be, that could be a lot of things, but remind yourself that colleges are about learning, and they want to understand what are the kinds of things you like to learn, and what are the kinds of things that you just get so jazzed about, and they want to understand why. So this is a fairly straightforward prompt, but again, the story has to be about that captivation. When are you so involved that you lose all track of time? And then tell me why. Why do you care about this thing? This thing that you're just so excited about. So lots of different things you can jump into with this prompt, but we're looking primarily for those intellectual puzzles that you find interesting. So one of the ways I help students begin to think about this is that what is it that you are reading, that you are constantly reading new stuff about it? So maybe it's you're reading about politics. Maybe you're reading certain kinds of fiction. I don't like it when students say I'm reading fantasy all the time. I'm sure you love fantasy, and I'm sure that's great, but that's not really the collegiate genre. There are going to be classes about fantasy perhaps, but that is not what we're talking about when we're talking about literature. So what are those concepts? It might be something in science. It might be you love science, you're doing really well in science, but maybe there's something that you find fascinating. I had a student not too long ago, he talked a lot about blockchains because he had been doing some research on his own. He had been reading and reading and reading, and then he had been working in a lab, a math lab with a professor, a computer science kind of lab, with a professor on a particular project that was related to blockchains. So he not only was really, really knowledgeable because he learned things on his own, but then he followed that up with other kinds of activities that he did during his extracurricular time. Same thing with a young woman who was totally different things, but she was very, very involved in some AIDS research, and at a medical school she's totally interested in biology and immunology and some other things, and she got hooked by the AIDS epidemic and thought that was so fascinating. And so one of the things that even though this was a scientific endeavor and she was really, really interested in it, she got interested in the policies in her school dealing with sex education and how AIDS was being taught or not taught in her school. And she just felt, because of the easy transmission of AIDS, HIV, she just felt that she had to do something. She started getting to be an activist at her school. Stirred up quite a stink, actually. but anyway, what are these things that you just get going on? I had another student get really involved in animal rights, and it's a topic, but she got super engaged in it on an intellectual and a moral and ethical level, and then she also got involved in her school district, and because of her and some others, she actually changed the policy about vivisection in the schools. Dissecting frogs and dissecting fetal pigs. She's a total animal rights person, and she did a presentation before the school board and explained that this was not the right way to do things. She was morally outraged, and she made a change. Notice, however, that particular activity could fit within 2 prompts. It could fit within more than one of these prompts. So think about that, and which prompt would it be? That's a little quiz. But that's often the case. When you start thinking about things that you're passionate about, that you care about, that you are intellectually engaged by, captivated, often some of the other prompts will also be relevant in how you explore that. But what's important in this prompt is, why do you care about it? And give me an illustration through a story of that captivation, of how you show me how captivated you really are when you lose that track of time. So this is great. This is an intellectual prompt. I like using this one. This is especially for some of the top universities. This shows you off as a student, as a thinker, and as somebody who can then sometimes turn that thinking and that intellectual engagement into action in other ways, and colleges eat that up. So have fun with this, and we'll go on to the next prompt.